If my wife left the house at 10 p.m., would I be concerned? Honestly, no, because I'd just turn on the local news to catch a glimpse of her. My wife, Emma Reed, is a co-host on the nightly news for one of Birmingham's top TV stations. She's both intelligent and stunning, and many speculate that she might soon land a job in a larger market like Atlanta or Chicago. There's even buzz about a potential offer from New York, the holy grail for news anchors. I'm Jake Turner, and Emma has kept her maiden name for her broadcasting career, which is a common practice among female news anchors to keep their personal and professional lives distinct. It's easy to see why I feel both proud and fortunate to be married to her. We first met at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. While Emma was studying broadcasting, I was focused on marketing. We crossed paths at a freshman fraternity party, and I was instantly captivated by her. She was tall, blonde, and simply radiant, whereas I was outgoing but far from being a jock or a model. Despite our differences, we hit it off and became an item. Our relationship had its ups and downs, including a 2-week breakup. I missed her so much that I rushed to her dorm, only to find her rushing toward me. It was like a scene straight out of a movie, and we promised to never be apart again. We were completely smitten. By the time we were seniors, we were engaged and living together off campus, though we decided to wait until after graduation to get married. Emma wanted a grand wedding, and her family could afford it. We tied the knot at Canterbury Chapel just a week after graduation. Emma got a weekend weather anchor position in Huntsville, nothing glamorous, but it was a start. I took on a junior role at a local advertising agency to build my resume. Emma's career took off rapidly. Within a year, she was offered a reporting position at the largest station in Mobile. We relocated to the Gulf Coast, where I landed a job at a major advertising firm. Emma excelled, moving from weekend newscaster to the nightly news co-host. Her announcement of her pregnancy boosted her popularity, and our daughter Lily's birth was a local event. The station even produced a documentary about Emma's return to work as a new mother, which won a regional Emmy. This success led to an offer from Birmingham's leading station, WSYY. We left Mobile for Birmingham, knowing it could open doors to even bigger opportunities. Birmingham, with its 1.2 million residents and significant media market, was a major advancement for Emma's career. Although I was initially apprehensive about leaving the comfort of Mobile, I soon realized there was no reason to be concerned. Thanks to recommendations from friends and help from the Birmingham station, I secured a great position at the city's second-largest advertising agency. The station's management was excellent, connecting us with a skilled real estate agent who found us a fantastic house in Hoover and a great daycare for Lily. The move was smoother than anticipated, and we quickly settled into our new life. Our daily routine has changed significantly because of Emma's demanding career. I start my day by preparing breakfast and heading to work, leaving Emma and Lily still asleep. Emma spends her mornings with Lily and then takes her to Mrs. Thompson's, a kind woman who introduces children to early concepts. I pick Lily up after work, make dinner, bathe her, read to her, and put her to bed. Then I relax until Emma gets home, often finding myself asleep on the couch. Emma's job is demanding. She arrives at the station by 3 p.m. to prep for the evening news, goes on air at 6 p.m., and again at 10 p.m. Recently, news director Mark Ramirez has been scheduling additional meetings after the late newscast, keeping her even later. The competition for ratings is fierce, and stations are always striving to attract more viewers. As someone in advertising, I understand the importance of ratings, but as a husband, I miss having quality time with Emma. We both work long hours and often feel like we're just coexisting rather than being a couple. Although we try to spend weekends together, it's tough with Emma's increasing public appearances. Our schedules rarely align, making it hard to address our issues, and Emma seems hesitant to discuss them because there are no simple solutions. When we got married, we talked about these challenges, and I agreed to them. Many of our friends deal with similar issues due to demanding careers. I try to be supportive because I knew what I was signing up for, and Emma's income significantly improves our lifestyle, even though money isn't everything. Eventually, I couldn't keep my frustration to myself. During lunch one day, I confided in Ben Foster, the media director at our agency. Ben, who is married with a daughter a little older than Lily, had become my closest friend at work. When he spoke about how content he was with his family, I couldn't help but blurt out how envious I was. "Looks like trouble in paradise, buddy," Ben said. "What's up?" I poured out my feelings, surprised at how overwhelmed I felt. "I'm married to one of the best women on TV," I complained, "but I see her as rarely as her fans do." Ben nodded sympathetically. "That's rough, Jake. Can't you take a vacation or a long weekend? Your parents would love to look after Lily." I considered it but replied, "Emma says Mark Ramirez is pushing them hard to keep up the ratings. He's worried that any time off could lead to a drop they might not recover from." "Well," Ben said, "I know Mark Ramirez. He's ambitious but fair. Maybe you should talk to him and see if he can help you and Emma get some time together," Ben suggested. "I don't know, Ben," I sighed. "Emma would have my head if she found out I spoke to her boss." "Mark'd worry about it," Ben said. "He's coming by the agency tomorrow for a presentation. You can catch him afterward." "I don't want to mix personal issues with work," I replied. "Mark'd be ridiculous," Ben insisted. "It's just a preliminary meeting. This could be a great opportunity to have a word with him." That evening, Emma came home later than usual. She didn't wake me up from the couch where I had fallen asleep. I woke in the middle of the night, stumbled into bed next to her, and thought, now we won't even get a chance to say goodnight properly. Determined to address our issue, I kept a close eye on the conference room the next day. As their meeting wrapped up, I waved at Mark. He looked cheerful. "Hey, Jake. How's my favorite news anchor's husband?" he called out. "Hey, Mark, do you have a minute?" I asked. "Sure, what's up?" he replied with a friendly tone. "I need you to ease up on Emma." "You're working her too hard," I said, frowning. He looked concerned. "Did she complain?" "No, she likes it," I said. "But I'm the one suffering. I hardly see her anymore." He relaxed and made a joke. "You knew she had a demanding job when you married her." "That's true," I agreed. "But all these extra appearances and meetings are cutting into our time together." Okay, he said. "We might have pushed it too far. I'll see what I can do to lighten her schedule. And don't worry about the post-mortems. We haven't had one since the last ratings came out. Have you seen how well we're doing compared to the competition? Management is thrilled. I've got to get to my next meeting. Keep taking care of your bride." With that, he gave me a pat on the back and walked away. Back at my desk, I checked the ratings and saw that the last set was published a month ago. If Mark hadn't held a post-mortem in that long, what was Emma doing when she came home so late? The thought unsettled me. I wondered if she might be having an affair, but quickly dismissed the idea. Emma loved me and wouldn't risk our marriage. There could be many reasons for her lateness, like catching up on fan mail or unwinding after a long day. Yet, these reasons didn't ease my worries. Ben popped his head in. "Hey, I saw you talking to Mark. Did he give you any relief?" "I'm not sure, Ben," I admitted. "I guess I won't know until I talk to Emma." He looked puzzled but didn't press further. "Okay, buddy, let me know if there's anything I can do." The rest of the day, I felt like a zombie. I went through the motions, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept replaying Mark's words and Emma's late nights in my head. I considered confronting her but feared looking foolish if her explanation was innocent. Accusing her of cheating wouldn't help our relationship, yet ignoring the issue seemed weak. By the time I left work to pick up Lily, I hadn't resolved anything. Thankfully, my 4-year-old's needs distracted me for the evening. She was unusually clingy, sensing my mood, and insisted on me reading to her nonstop. When she finally fell asleep, tears welled up in my eyes as I thought about how devastating a divorce would be for her. Exhausted, I watched TV but couldn't focus until the news came on. Seeing Emma on screen reminded me of how much I loved her, and I tried to convince myself she wouldn't betray me. Emma came home after midnight. "Oh, I didn't realize you were still up," she said, surprised. I hugged her. "I just wanted to see you. You're awfully late tonight." She gave me a quick kiss and kicked off her shoes. "Yeah, sorry. Mark kept us late again with one of his debriefings," she said, heading upstairs to bed. As she walked away, I realized she had lied. Mark had said he hadn't held a session in a month. I didn't want to believe Emma was cheating, but I couldn't ignore the possibility either. The next day, I asked Ben if he could join me for lunch. He noticed my serious tone and agreed. We drove to a restaurant far from the office in silence. When it came time to order, I hesitated, but Ben broke the silence. "It's Emma, isn't it?" His words opened the floodgates, and I poured out all my fears and insecurities. Ben listened quietly. "Damn," Ben said, "I thought you and Emma had the happiest marriage." "So did I said sadly. "So, what's your plan?" Ben asked. His question clarified my thoughts. "Ben, I need to go to the station and see for myself. If I'm wrong and everything's innocent, I'll sneak out unnoticed. Emma won't ever know." "And if you're right?" Ben asked softly. "I don't know," I admitted. "But at least I'll know the truth. It's better than this constant uncertainty." "What about Lily?" Ben asked. "I've already thought about that," I told him. "When we get back, I'll call Mrs. Thompson and ask if she can keep Lily a bit later tonight. She's offered before, so it should be fine." We finished lunch, and I returned to the office feeling slightly relieved despite my ongoing distress. Even facing execution, there's a sense of relief when the end is finally in sight. Mrs. Thompson agreed to keep Lily but asked me to pick her up by 11 p.m. since she had work in the morning. It wasn't much time, but it was the best I could arrange, so I promised. After work, I told Lily about the change. She cried initially but brightened up when Mrs. Thompson mentioned a pizza party. I paid for the extra time and the pizza, then left before Lily could get too upset. Back home, I made dinner but couldn't bring myself to eat. As I cleaned up, my anxiety grew. The news wouldn't end until 10:30 p.m. What if Emma came straight home? What would I say? These fears paralyzed me until I remembered my resolve from lunch. I knew I had to do something drastic. By 10 p.m., I decided to head over to the station. At that hour, the place would be almost deserted, just a handful of technicians and crew. I hoped to slip in unnoticed. But as soon as I arrived, I realized I'd overlooked something crucial. Joe, the night watchman, was on duty. He knew me well, so getting in wasn't a problem, but I had to sign in. So much for being stealthy. "Evening, Mr. Turner," Joe greeted me. "Just came to catch the news," I replied, scribbling my name in the log. Joe gave me a sympathetic look. "Everything all right?" "Yeah, everything's fine," I said quickly, trying to hurry toward the studio. What did he mean by that? Did he know something I didn't? I peered through the blackout curtains. The news had just ended, and instead of heading to her dressing room, Emma was making her way to the green room, a place usually reserved for guests who weren't part of the 10 o'clock broadcast. As she opened the door, a lamp inside cast a shadow of a man. The door shut behind them, and I was left outside, heart racing. I could barge in, but if it was innocent, Emma would never forgive me. If I stayed outside, I'd be left in the dark. I recalled a small observation window Emma had once shown me. I glanced at my watch. It was already 10:45. I needed to pick up Lily soon. I peered through the window and saw Emma in a passionate embrace with another man. I quickly recorded a video on my phone, the light from the camera highlighting her black lingerie. I wanted to confront her, but the time was pressing. I dashed back to the lobby, nodded at Joe, and headed out. "Sorry about that, Mr. Turner," Joe called after me. I cursed under my breath. Does everyone but me know what's happening? I wondered as I raced to Mrs. Thompson's house. She let me in, and I found Lily fast asleep. Wrapping her in a blanket, I thanked Mrs. Thompson. "Is everything okay, Mr. Turner?" she asked, noticing my tear-streaked face. "It's nothing," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Just got something in my eye." I thanked her again, carried Lily to the car, and drove home. Lily remained asleep as I carried her upstairs and tucked her into bed. She looked so innocent and serene, and I longed for the simple, unblemished life we once had. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat in the dark, waiting. The silence was deafening, and memories of my grandmother's death only deepened my despair. When Emma finally walked in around 1 a.m., she turned on the kitchen light and saw me sitting there. "Jake, what are you doing up?" she asked, surprised. "I've been waiting for you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The security guard mentioned you were at the studio. Is Lily all right?" "Where is she?" Emma asked, her concern seemingly genuine. "Mrs. Thompson is looking after her." "She's asleep upstairs," I replied. "If you were at the studio, why didn't you stop by my office?" she asked, her confusion evident. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. "I saw you tonight. I saw you go into the green room with Ryan Collins," I said, my voice shaking. "Oh, we just had a meeting after the show," she said, her tone dismissive. "Emma, I watched through the observation window. I saw exactly what you were doing. I even saw your new lingerie," I said, watching her face flush with embarrassment. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry," she said softly. "Are you sorry because you did it or because you got caught?" I demanded, my frustration boiling over. "I'm sorry you found out this way," she said quietly, avoiding my gaze. "So you're leaving me for him, aren't you?" I asked, feeling a lump in my throat. She sank to her knees, gripping my hands. "No, Jake, I'm not leaving you. It's just a fling. It might blow over soon, and things will go back to normal," she said, her words shocking me. "You're not going to stop. You're going to keep cheating on me," I said in disbelief. "It doesn't mean anything. Just let me have my fun, and I'll come back to you," she said dismissively. "I can't believe this. You want me to accept being the cheated-on husband?" I shouted, unable to contain my anger. Emma stood up, looked at me coldly. "Jake, you really don't have a say in this," she said bluntly. "I'm your husband. If you don't stop, I'll file for divorce," I threatened, hoping to make her see the gravity of the situation. She gave me a cold, calculating look. "I don't think that's in your best interest, Jake. You'll lose custody of Lily and most of our assets. The court won't care about the affair. They'll prioritize Lily's welfare, and I'll get custody. You'll only see her on weekends and some holidays," she stated matter-of-factly. "But you're the one cheating." I protested, feeling increasingly out of control. "This is a no-fault state, Jake. The court won't care. Ask a lawyer if you don't believe me," she said with a finality that chilled me. "I don't want this. I want our family to stay together. This affair shouldn't change things between us. Just think about it," she said, kissing my forehead before heading to bed. I sat there, overwhelmed by a storm of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness. The idea that Emma could be so unfaithful was unfathomable, and her suggestion to continue the affair was beyond belief. Finally, I dragged myself to bed, falling asleep almost immediately from sheer exhaustion. Despite my fatigue, I woke up at 6 the next morning. I showered, shaved, and dressed with a robotic detachment. My mind raced with chaotic thoughts: run away, confront Emma, or just stay in bed forever. But as I looked at Lily sleeping peacefully, I knew I had to stay strong for her. Acting out of desperation would only mean losing her. I had to put her first. So I went through my morning routine and headed to the office, running on autopilot. "Jake," Ben said, noticing my disheveled state. "Are you okay?" When I didn't respond, he came into my office and shut the door. "What's going on?" he asked. I told him everything that happened the previous night. Ben listened, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief. "Damn it," he said, shaking his head. "She expects you to just accept her cheating?" He met my eyes with a firm look. "Emma has changed. You can't rely on her anymore. You need to start looking out for yourself. The first step is to consult an attorney. You need to know your rights." "Hell, Ben," I replied, "I don't even know any lawyers in Birmingham." "That's where I can help," Ben said with a reassuring smile. "My college roommate is a lawyer here. I'll give him a call." Moments later, Ben returned with a slip of paper. "You've got an appointment at 1 p.m. today. Here's his name and address." "Thanks, Ben," I said, relieved to have something concrete to focus on. "At least it gives me a plan." "Not a problem," Ben said. "After you meet with him, come back and fill me in on what he says." The meeting with the lawyer was a blow to my hopes. He listened patiently as I recounted my situation, then explained the reality of our no-fault state. "In cases like this, the court doesn't care who did what," he said. "It only determines how property is divided and what happens with child custody." "What does that mean for me?" I asked, bracing myself. "In essence, Emma will likely get custody unless she's proven unfit," he said matter-of-factly. "You'll have visitation rights, but Lily will live with her. You'll also be responsible for child support, even though Emma earns more." "And the house?" I asked, hoping for some positive news. "It's joint property, but the court prefers to keep the children in their home," he explained. "Emma will likely keep the house until Lily turns 18. After that, you can sell it and split the equity." "But what if she moves away?" I protested. "Then you can sell the house. Until then, it stays put," he clarified. I felt a wave of defeat. Damn it. She knew exactly what she was talking about. "I'm screwed," I muttered. "I'm sorry," the lawyer said as we shook hands. "It's not always fair, but that's the law." As I drove back, it felt like I was being punished for something I hadn't done. Ben saw the distress on my face as I walked back into the office. "Damn it, Ben," I said, "it's just not fair. She put me in this situation, and I have to endure it just to keep my daughter and my home." "I get it, Jake," Ben said, "but don't even joke about losing it. If anything happens to her, I don't want to be a witness to any threats." Okay, I agreed. I wouldn't do anything like that. It just feels like she's an albatross around my neck." I glanced out the window and groaned. A new billboard showed Emma and Ryan Collins with the caption, "Birmingham's choice for the 6 o'clock news." "See?" I said to Ben, pointing at it. "I can't even escape her here." Ben looked at the sign and then had an idea. "How desperate are you to get out of this mess?" he asked. "Not desperate enough for violence," I said firmly. "No, not violence," Ben said, shaking his head. "But I have an idea." We spent an hour discussing his plan, me repeatedly insisting it was crazy and wouldn't work. Ben kept pressing, asking, "How much worse off could you be?" Eventually, I realized I was stuck and needed to try something different. "All right, Ben," I said finally. "I'm in." I left the office feeling a mix of determination and doubt. Could I really risk everything for this plan? Maybe it was better to live with the betrayal. As I picked up Lily and made dinner, my mind kept racing. I turned off the TV, unable to stomach seeing Emma and Ryan on the news. Surprisingly, Emma came home early. She put Lily to bed, and I could hear them laughing and reading stories. It felt almost normal again. When Emma came downstairs, I thanked her for being there for Lily. "She misses you, especially at bedtime," I said. "I know," Emma replied softly. "And I've missed her too." I wondered if she was reconsidering her choices, but my hopes were dashed quickly. "I'm taking a vacation next week," Emma said. "Mark Ramirez suggested it because our ratings are so high." "I'll check with my boss tomorrow to join you," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "No, Jake," Emma said firmly. "Ryan and I are going away alone. We're tired of sneaking around and want to enjoy each other without any worries." I was stunned. "Mrs. Thompson will keep Lily all week. You just need to drop her off and pick her up. Here's where I'll be if you need to contact me." She handed me a piece of paper. "We'll be back on Sunday, and then things will go back to normal." She kissed my forehead as if I were a child and said, "Thanks for taking care of everything, honey," before heading to bed. Oh my God, I thought, feeling the sting of humiliation. I was shaking with anger and knew I needed to regain my dignity. Ben's crazy plan seemed like my best shot. On Friday, I left work early to confront Emma before she left with Ryan. I arranged for Mrs. Thompson to keep Lily overnight so she wouldn't witness any of the confrontation. I checked Emma's closet, saw her suitcases, and knew she was getting ready to leave. When Emma's car pulled in, I waited in the living room. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprise in her voice. "Is Lily okay?" "She's fine," I said. "She's with Mrs. Thompson." "Then why are you here?" Emma demanded. "I wanted to convince you not to go away with Ryan," I told her. Emma put her hands on her hips. "I've told you, Jake. I'm having my affair with Ryan. When we get back, it will be over, and everything will go back to normal. You just have to be patient." "But what about our wedding vows?" I protested. "What about the promises we made?" "Those vows were from another time," Emma said, irritation in her voice. "No one believes that nonsense anymore." "But this is infidelity," I insisted. "I don't want you to dishonor our marriage." "Jake, if I want to be with Ryan, I will," she replied dismissively. "This has nothing to do with you and me." "What about your fans?" I argued. "They won't approve." "I don't care what they think," Emma said coldly. "In a year, I'll be leaving Birmingham for a real city. What people here think doesn't matter. Now, stop bothering me. I need to pack, or I'll be late. If you can't stand seeing me with Ryan, you'd better leave now." I stood up, feeling defeated. "I'm sorry, Emma. I'm sorry for everything." I left and drove to the local tavern, needing to drown my sorrows. As I sipped my second beer, Ben walked in. "Hey, buddy," he greeted. "How'd it go?" "I don't know, Ben," I replied, feeling dejected. "You'll have to see for yourself." "Not until I try what you suggested," Ben said with determination. We finished our beers and then drove back to my house. Emma was gone. Ben set up my computer and, with a few keystrokes, brought up the footage. We watched as Emma rejected my pleas and detailed her plans with Ryan. "What a piece of work," Ben muttered. Then he saw her dismiss her fans and talk about leaving town. Ben's face brightened. "We got her. This is better than we hoped." He saved the recordings to a flash drive and removed the hidden cameras. "Backup copy," he said, holding up the drive. We drove back to the tavern to get Ben's car. He insisted I follow him home for dinner. Grace's made a big dinner. If you don't show up, she'll be pissed, he urged. I reluctantly followed him. When we arrived, Grace greeted me with a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Whether it was out of friendship or pity, I appreciated the gesture. I don't remember much about the dinner, just picking at my food while Ben and Grace exchanged concerned glances. Afterward, they led me to the den, where Ben opened a bottle of wine. We drank until Grace finally spoke up. "I'm so angry and disappointed in Emma," she said. "She always seemed so sweet and loving. When did she become such a selfish, promiscuous woman?" "Success has gone to her head," Ben said. "Now she thinks she can do whatever she wants." Grace turned to Ben with a serious look. "Do whatever you can to help Jake. I don't like taking sides in divorces, but this is different. Emma is completely out of line, and we need to help Jake keep his daughter." She gave Ben a piercing stare. "And if you get hit on by any of those models or TV personalities, you better say no, or I'll come after you with a butcher knife." Ben and I laughed, though I wasn't entirely sure if she was serious or just making a point. We talked and drank deep into the night until I finally collapsed on Ben and Grace's couch. I vaguely remembered Grace covering me with a blanket and patting my arm before I drifted off. When I woke up, morning sunlight streamed through the window, and my mouth tasted like something had died in it. Ben handed me a toothbrush and razor, and I did my best to freshen up. Grace had prepared a hearty breakfast, which I joined them for. My appetite was a bit better, probably thanks to sheer survival instincts. After breakfast, Ben took my hand. "Leave everything to me," he said firmly. "I've got a lot to do this weekend. Just pick up Lily and get out of here. I'll keep you updated." "Ben, I don't know what I'd do without you," I said, my voice sincere. He gave me an awkward hug, and I headed home. One last task loomed ahead that I dreaded. I located Ryan and Amy Collins's number in our address book and dialed it. When Amy answered, I could tell she was wary. "Hi, Amy. This is Jake Turner, Emma's husband. Can I come over now to talk?" I asked. "Hi, Jake," she said, her tone uncertain. "Sure, come on over." As I drove to her house, I rehearsed what I would say. Breaking news like this to someone, especially when you don't know them well, was never easy. Amy had been in Emma's sorority and was 2 years younger than us, so we hadn't socialized much. I was surprised she married Ryan. They didn't seem like a match. When I arrived, Amy greeted me and offered me a drink. "Just water with ice, please," I said, hoping it would keep my mouth from going dry. She returned with the water, and I took a sip before speaking. "Amy, do you know where Ryan is?" I asked gently. "Yes," she replied. "He's at a TV convention all week." "Why?" "Amy, I'm really sorry to have to tell you this," I began, trying to soften the blow. "But Ryan isn't at a convention. He's with my wife at the coast, having an affair." The shock on Amy's face was palpable. It was as if I'd slapped her. "That can't be," she stammered. "I saw him off last night. He loves me. Emma was like a sister to me. She wouldn't hurt me." Her voice trembled, and then she broke down. "Oh, Jake, are you sure?" she asked, tears welling up. I nodded grimly and showed her the video from the green room. As she watched, her eyes reddened, and she started crying. I sat beside her, gently stroking her back. "I know, Amy. I know," I said softly, trying to offer some comfort. Suddenly, her expression turned from sadness to anger. "That cow seduced him." "If you had her under control," she stopped when she saw the pain on my face. "Oh, Jake, I'm sorry. You lost your wife too, didn't you?" Her words cut deep and brought my own pain rushing back. I started crying again, and we embraced, finding solace in each other's suffering. When we finally pulled apart, she wiped her tears and asked, "What are you going to do now?" I explained my predicament, especially the complications with Lily. Amy, who didn't have children, immediately grasped the gravity of Emma's influence over me. She took my hand sympathetically. "Oh, Jake, I never thought she could be so cruel," Amy said. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to file for divorce," I said. "But I need to make sure I don't lose Lily. It's better if you don't know all the details, just in case." Amy's eyes widened with concern. "You're not planning anything illegal, are you?" she asked, alarmed. "No, nothing like that," I assured her. "But if I succeed, both Emma and Ryan will regret what they've done." She gave a weak smile. "What about me? Can I rebuild my marriage after this?" "After learning how long this has been going on and how weak they are together, I don't think I can stay with him," Amy said. "Maybe you should use my lawyer if you don't have someone else in mind." She accepted the contact information for my lawyer. "I don't know any lawyers," she admitted. "If you use mine, it could save you money since he already has all my evidence." "Call him on Monday and let him know we're on the same page," I said. Amy nodded and took the paper. "Jake, I need a huge favor," I said. "Please don't tell anyone about this until you hear from me. It could cost me the chance to keep Lily." She looked at me solemnly and nodded. "I won't say a word, Jake. I promise." I thanked her and stood to leave. "What are you going to do now?" Amy asked. "I'm going to pick up my daughter and take her out of town until things settle down," I said. She wished me luck, and I returned the sentiment. We both needed it, I thought. I drove to Mrs. Thompson's house, and when I arrived, Lily came running to me and jumped into my arms. "Did you have a good time, honey?" I asked. "Oh yes, Daddy," she exclaimed. "I had a sleepover, we had pancakes for breakfast, and I played with dolls." I thanked Mrs. Thompson and reminded her that Lily wouldn't be coming next week. She looked at me with concern. "Is everything all right, Jake?" "I hope so," I replied. Mrs. Thompson kissed Lily's cheek. "Take good care of her. She's like family to me. I'll be praying for you." "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," I said, touched by her kindness. I carried Lily to the car and buckled her in. When we got home, she asked, "Where's Mommy?" "Mom had to go on a trip," I said. "But you and I are going on a trip too." "Where are we going, Daddy?" she asked, her excitement growing. "To Grandma and Grandpa's farm," I said. Lily squealed with delight and started dancing. She loved visiting my parents and seeing the farm animals. "Can we see the ducks and the little pigs?" she asked. "Sure, honey," I said, grabbing our bags. "Let's get started." I considered leaving Emma a note but decided against it. The drive to my parents' farm took just over an hour. Lily slept most of the way, and when we turned onto the gravel road, she woke up, pointing at the horses and cows. When we arrived, Mom and Dad greeted us warmly. Lily rushed into Grandma's arms, eager to see the animals. Mom took her to the barn, giving me a worried look. I took my bag, Dad took Lily's, and we went inside. Dad handed me a glass of fruit tea, its flavor bringing back childhood memories. "Okay, Jake, what's going on with you and Emma?" he asked bluntly, his eyes full of concern. "Let's take a walk, Dad," I said, "and I'll fill you in." We walked along the fence as I recounted the entire story. Dad listened in silence, his pain evident. He gasped at some parts, and by the end, his eyes were filled with tears. "I never imagined Emma could be capable of this," Dad said, his voice a mixture of shock and heartbreak. "She's always been so caring and such a wonderful mother to Lily. How could she turn so cold and selfish?" I understood his disbelief. I was struggling to process it myself. "Dad, could this possibly be a misunderstanding or some kind of sick joke?" he asked, trying to hold on to hope. I shook my head, knowing it was far from a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone and handed it to him. "Here, watch this," I said. Dad took the phone, and I pressed play on the video. The look on his face as he watched was one of dawning horror. Emma's nearly naked body sliding down Ryan Collins's torso was unmistakable. The video ended, and Dad just stood there, his face pale and his shoulders sagging. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his voice breaking. "Oh, Jake," he said softly, "I'm so sorry. Seeing this, it's tearing me apart. I can't even imagine what you're going through." We stood in that embrace for a few minutes, silent and hurting, before making our way back to the house. Dad kept a comforting hand on my shoulder. As we re-entered, he looked at me with a grave expression. "Jake, can you tell Mom? I don't think I can handle it right now." I nodded. "I understand. I can do it." When we entered the kitchen, Mom and Lily were enjoying a snack. Mom's concern was immediate when she saw Dad's face. "Son," Dad said gently, "why don't you take Lily to the pond to see the ducklings?" Lily's eyes lit up, and she tugged at my arm. "Let's go see the ducks, Daddy." I gave Dad a grateful nod and led Lily outside. The walk to the pond was a welcome distraction. When we returned, Mom had been crying. She wrapped me in a tight hug, her voice trembling. "I love you, Jake. Your father and I are here for you, no matter what," she said softly. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered, glancing at Dad. "And thank you, Dad. That really means a lot." We stood together in silence, the weight of the situation heavy on all of us. To take Lily's mind off the tension, I turned to her. "All right, Lily, let's go unpack and get ready for dinner." She eagerly took my hand and led me to our room. I promised myself I would do whatever it took to keep my daughter safe and happy. The next day, we went to the old Baptist church where my parents had worshipped for years. It was comforting to hear the familiar hymns and scriptures. Later that evening, Ben called with an update on his weekend's work. I was struck by how much I relied on him and how grateful I was for his support. "I want to thank you, Ben," I began. He interrupted, "You would have done the same for me. But listen, are you ready to move forward with our plan? There's no turning back once we start." I weighed the risks. Success wasn't guaranteed, and even if we succeeded, things might still go wrong. But Emma had put me in an untenable position. I had to take action. "Ben," I said with resolve, "let's do it." Ben seemed to sense my determination. "Grace thinks you're making the right choice," he said, trying to lift my spirits. "Do you have access to a computer?" I chuckled. "Yes, we're not living in the 1800s, I replied. "Good. I'll call you tomorrow with more details," Ben said. "Why not just email me the link?" I asked. "No, I want to keep this off the grid for now." "Just wait for my call," he insisted. I checked on Lily, ensuring she was asleep in her new bed. Ben called the next morning. "When you get some privacy, go to YouTube and search for WXY. Let me know what you find." With Mom and Dad taking Lily out for a walk, I had some quiet time. I searched for the video on YouTube. One title caught my eye, WXYY, co-host Emma Reed shares her views on love and marriage. The familiar theme music of the 6 o'clock news played, but as the camera zoomed in on Emma, her voice faded, replaced by a voiceover. Popular news co-host Emma Reed of WXY was recently interviewed about her views on love and marriage, the voiceover announced. The screen shifted to Emma speaking. "Marriage has been around as long as human society, but today it's under siege like never before," she said. I recognized these lines from a previous WXY segment on divorce rates. But then the voiceover continued, "What are your views on the sanctity of marriage, Emma?" The scene changed to our den, where Emma said, wedding vows were written for a different time. No one takes that seriously anymore. The screen froze, and the voiceover asked, "What about fidelity to your husband?" Emma responded bluntly, "If I want to leave and have an affair with Ryan Collins, I'll do it. That's what I want." Ryan Collins's image appeared on screen, making it clear who she meant. The voiceover continued, "What about the public's opinion? Do you think your viewers will agree?" Emma's reply was dismissive. "I don't care what my fans think. They're just a bunch of redneck dorks. In 6 months to a year, I'll be out of here for a real city. What people here think means nothing." The unseen voice asked, "So you plan to have an affair with Ryan Collins?" Emma's answer was unapologetic. "I've already told you. I'm going to have my affair with Ryan, and there's nothing you can do about it." The video then cut to footage I'd taken in the green room, Emma, nearly undressed, with Ryan. The scene froze on a particularly intimate moment, and the voiceover concluded, "Now, Birmingham viewers are left wondering, where are Emma and Ryan this week?" The WXY News theme played, showing an empty newsroom before fading out. I leaned back, feeling a complex mix of triumph and sorrow. I called Ben. "What do you think?" he asked. "Ben, you're a genius," I said, amazed. "This is going to destroy her career." "Not bad, huh?" "I'm pretty proud of it," Ben said with a hint of pride. A pang of guilt hit me. "Are we being too harsh?" I asked. "Did she really say all those things?" Ben's tone was firm. "Yes, and no buts. She turned into a selfish monster, and we need to show that. You're a good guy, Jake. If you don't do this, it's not just you who will suffer, it's Lily too. Do you want Emma to be her role model?" "You're right, Ben. There's no other choice," I agreed. "What's the next step? Do we send out mass emails with the link?" "No need for that. This will spread on its own. I'll drop hints to a few gossipers, and it'll go viral. Just be patient," Ben assured me. "Okay, Ben. Keep me updated," I said, feeling a bit more confident. Over the next few days, Lily and I made the most of our time at the farm. She enjoyed learning about farming and cooking with my mom. It was a refreshing break from the city and a welcome distraction for both of us. Ben kept me updated daily, each call bringing a new twist. On Tuesday, he shared with a chuckle that Grace had caught wind of the video from a coworker. By Wednesday, it was the hot topic at the Kiwanis meeting. And by Thursday, a media columnist had mentioned it in the paper, ending with the cliffhanger, and the question on everyone's mind, where are Emma and Ryan? Ben's excitement was palpable when he called me on Thursday afternoon. "I spoke with our media officer at WBXWE, he said, barely containing his glee. "The whole station is in chaos. They're fielding calls from every news outlet trying to get a statement from Emma and Ryan. And to make matters worse, Mark Ramirez is out of town and unreachable. The staff is in complete disarray." By Friday, Ben had pointed me to a blog article on Docker.com that reported on the uproar caused by the WXY anchors. The article linked to the YouTube video and speculated that heads might roll over this scandal. That morning, I called my attorney to file for divorce. I arranged for Emma to be served on Saturday at the country house in Gulf Shores, where she and Ryan were hiding out. It was a costly move, but I felt it was worth it. I also reached out to Amy to see if she wanted Ryan served at the same time. "No," she replied. "I'll handle it myself when he gets back." Local TV stations in Birmingham, itching to outdo WXY, saw the video as a golden opportunity. Ben had tipped off a producer at the second highest rated channel about my divorce filing, which they eagerly reported as breaking news. My attorney confirmed the filing revealed the location where Emma would be served. The station decided to go all in, dispatching a video crew and lead reporter to Gulf Shores on Saturday. Ben called me Saturday morning with more updates. Mark Ramirez has cut his vacation short and is rushing back to Birmingham, he said. The WXYY staff is panicked. You should watch the evening news on a rival station. Saturday, typically a slow news day, was dominated by the Emma and Ryan story. The competing station's co-host opened with a shot of Emma and Ryan from my office window billboard. The reporter, Fiona McCarthy, was walking down the beach towards Emma and Ryan, who were sunbathing. They hadn't noticed her until she started calling out loudly, "Emma Reed, Ryan Collins, what can you tell us about your relationship and the rumors circulating in Birmingham?" Emma, braless and barely clothed, hastily covered herself while Ryan scrambled to cover his Speedo with a towel. "What do you have to say about the video that's gone viral?" Fiona demanded. Emma looked bewildered. "What video?" "The one where you said you came here to have an affair with Ryan Collins," Fiona replied coldly. Emma spluttered, and Ryan tried to intervene, but then a man in a suit appeared, asking, "Are you Emma Turner Reed?" Emma reflexively answered, "Yes." The man handed her an envelope. "You've been served. Your husband also instructed me to inform you that the locks on your house have been changed, and you are no longer welcome there." Emma was stunned. Her eyes flashed with anger as she screamed, "That son of a..." Ryan, realizing the cameras were still rolling, grabbed Emma and led her away toward the resort. The camera followed, focusing on her oil-slicked backside as she stormed off. The local announcer returned to the screen. Emma Reed and Ryan Collins, who had been missing for the week, are currently staying at a luxurious Gulf Shores resort. Emma's husband has filed for divorce and evicted her from their home. We attempted to reach him for a comment but were unsuccessful. They couldn't reach me because Lily and I were still at my parents' farm. Ben later informed me that Emma didn't believe the bailiff about the locks being changed and went to the house with Ryan, only to find that her key no longer worked. A camera crew captured her frustration. When they went to Ryan's house, Amy served him divorce papers at the door, also caught on camera. They ended up spending the night in a motel. Ben got more details from our media manager, who had heard from a contact at WXY. Mark Ramirez had returned to Birmingham and tried, unsuccessfully, to reach Emma and Ryan, whose phones were off. Mark was furious, especially after seeing the competing network's exclusive report. Ryan finally called the office on Sunday afternoon. Mark ordered them to the studio, and they sneaked in through the service elevator to avoid the rival station's van. Mark berated Emma and Ryan in front of the staff before firing them. "You can't do this," Emma screamed. "We have a contract." Mark's response was icy. "Your contracts include a morals clause. What we do in private is nobody's business." Mark, a devout Catholic, added, "The priest spoke about the sanctity of marriage and the sin of infidelity during Mass this morning. While he didn't name you, his sermon was clearly directed at public figures like yourselves." Emma recoiled, but Ryan continued, "Nobody knows or cares about us." Mark's reply was sarcastic. "Clearly, you didn't see the news last night. Just look out the window." He pulled back the curtain to reveal a vandalized billboard that now read, "Birmingham's choice for the 6 o'clock news is a strumpet." Emma gasped. "Your behavior has dishonored this station and damaged our ratings and reputation. I have no choice but to terminate your contracts. If you were the monster in Frankenstein, then the people of Birmingham are the angry mob. I suggest you leave town as soon as possible." Driving back to Birmingham on Sunday evening, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I left for Birmingham later than planned, hoping to avoid any media or confrontations with Emma. As I drove, I caught the news about Emma and Ryan's firing. It was everywhere. When I finally arrived home, the media had packed up and left. The next morning, a new scandal involving a city politician's embezzlement had eclipsed Emma and Ryan's story. The public's attention had moved on, and my own personal turmoil was now secondary. I took Lily to Mrs. Thompson's house. Mrs. Thompson greeted us warmly, and Lily quickly ran off to play. Mrs. Thompson gave me a sympathetic nod. "I'm really sorry about everything, Jake. I hope you and Lily are hanging in there." I thanked her, though I wasn't sure what the future held. Her omission of Emma spoke volumes. At work, everyone was cordial but avoided eye contact, except for Benai, who enveloped me in a big hug. "You're a genius," I told him. "You turned this into a viral sensation." Benai beamed. "It worked better than we ever imagined. Only downside is we'll never be able to tell anyone what we did." "Probably for the best," I agreed. "Emma will figure out I was behind it and might come after me. I don't want you caught in the fallout." To my surprise, my lawyer called later in the week with some unexpected news. Emma had agreed not to contest the divorce. "Why the change of heart?" I asked. "She initially wanted to fight," my lawyer explained, but her attorney advised her against it. She considered suing for invasion of privacy, but with her damaged reputation and no sympathy from the public, it wasn't worth it. No jury would side with her. "And Lily?" I inquired. Emma had threatened to fight for custody, but with her current unemployment and lack of future prospects, no judge would grant her custody. "She's dropping the custody battle in your favor and just wants to pick up her things and speak with you. If she signs the papers, we can arrange a meeting." "I'll meet with her," I agreed. We set up a time for the end of the week. I had achieved most of what I wanted. But if I'm honest, what I really wanted was to rewind everything and go back to how things were before all of this. Still, having Lily was what mattered most. That night, Ben, Grace, and I celebrated with dinner. Lily joined us and slept in one of their guest beds while we chatted. I brought a bottle of champagne to toast my friends. Grace raised her glass. "I thought your plan was wild and might blow up in your faces," she said. "But you," she nodded to me, "were fighting for your little girl. And you," she turned to Ben, "had the confidence to pull it off. Thank you both for sticking together and succeeding, despite everything." "Cheers," Ben and I said in unison. Before everything wrapped up, I wanted to check in on Amy Collins. She was caught in this mess through no fault of her own and seemed to be suffering as much as anyone. I felt a pang of guilt for her, even though Ryan was the main villain. Amy had been blindsided. I called her, and she agreed to meet for lunch, indicating she wasn't holding a grudge. We met at a quiet cafe. After we ordered, I asked how she was holding up. "Not well, Jake," she said. "One minute I'm happily married to a TV host, and the next, I'm divorcing a liar who humiliated me." "I know," I said sympathetically. "It's like something out of a soap opera." Amy asked about my situation with Emma, and I updated her on the divorce outcome. "Good," she said with a touch of vindictiveness. She got what was coming to her. "And Ryan?" I asked. "That coward fled town without facing me. He told his lawyer to settle everything on his behalf. I don't know where he is, and honestly, I don't care. Except I keep waking up reaching for him," she admitted, her eyes filling with tears. "Are you okay financially?" I asked. "Sort of," she replied. "He left me a house, but it's too big and has a hefty mortgage. Ryan's supposed to pay alimony, but I'm not counting on it. I'll probably move in with my parents, find a job, and start over. This isn't how I thought my life would turn out." I felt a deep sympathy for her. She was a good person caught in a terrible situation. I asked her to keep in touch and let me know where she was heading. I genuinely hoped she could find her way through this. The last thing left was Emma's visit. I wasn't looking forward to it. My anger had faded with the success of the viral campaign, and I wanted to end things on a less contentious note. I decided to do something kind by having Lily there when Emma arrived. When Emma pulled up in the SUV she rented to move her things, Her initial scowl softened when she saw Lily. As Lily ran to her, Emma's face lit up with a genuine smile, and tears welled up in her eyes. She hugged Lily tightly and whispered, "Thank you." They spent time playing together, and the visit, which was supposed to last an hour, stretched longer as Lily showed Emma everything in her room. Emma suggested that Lily go play for a bit while we talked. "I'll be up soon, sweetheart. Daddy and I need to have a chat first." Once Lily was out of the room, Emma turned to me, her irritation clear. "Thank you for letting me see her. I didn't expect that." I nodded. Emma's tone shifted. "You used a private conversation to make me a public spectacle. How could you do that?" I sighed deeply. "Emma, I'm done fighting. None of us will come out ahead in this." "Easy for you to say," she snapped. "You've taken away my job, my family, my future, all to protect your pride." "Emma," I said calmly, "I'm not here to argue. But think about it. None of this would have happened if you hadn't acted without thinking about the consequences for everyone else. You've created this mess yourself." Emma opened her mouth to respond, but Lily's voice called out from upstairs, asking when her mother would come up. Emma looked at me, then went upstairs to Lily. After some time, Emma returned downstairs with her suitcases, Lily trailing behind her. Emma knelt down and spoke to Lily. "Mom has to leave now. I'm moving to another state, so I won't be able to see you every day. But I'll visit as often as I can, and we can talk on the phone and video chat as much as you want." Lily's face crumpled, and she cried out, "No, Mommy, I don't want you to go." Lily clung to Emma as though she were the only lifeline in a stormy sea. Emma held her close, her voice a soft murmur as she tried to comfort her. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'll be back before you know it, and we'll have so much fun together." She looked over at me, still holding Lily. "Now, be a good girl for Daddy. I love you, Lily. Always remember that." Emma picked up her suitcases and moved toward the door, tears streaming down her cheeks. She didn't look back. With a quick wave, she loaded her bags into the car and drove away. I wrapped my arms around Lily, my own tears mingling with hers. We were both losing something precious, me, a wife, Lily, a mother. Eventually, I set Lily down and said, "I've got an idea. How about we go to the park and see the ducks? And maybe get some ice cream? What do you think?" Lily's eyes brightened. "Yes, and we can feed the cones to the ducks, right, Daddy?" "Absolutely," I replied, grateful for the distraction. I knew Lily would miss her mom terribly, but I hoped children her age could bounce back more quickly. And I hoped I could adapt as well. The next week, adaptation took on a new meaning. Late one evening, my boss summoned me to his office. "Jake, you've done a remarkable job, and we appreciate your contributions," he began. I braced myself for the inevitable. "But," he continued, "the situation with your wife is affecting our clients. They're asking about you and it's impacting our relationships, especially with WXYE, which is a crucial media partner for us. Are you firing me?" I asked bluntly. "Absolutely not," he assured me. "But we think it's best if you start looking for another position. Take as much time as you need. I'll provide you with a strong letter of recommendation." It wasn't fair, but I knew better than to burn any bridges. I shook his hand, thanked him for the recommendation, and headed to Ben's office. "What's going on?" Ben asked, his concern evident. "I just got fired," I said. "They think it's best for me to move on." "That's ridiculous," Ben exclaimed. "I'm going to tell them what I think." I gently guided him back to his chair. "You're not doing anything. I knew this was a risk. You've done more for me than I could ever repay. It's time to move on." Reluctantly, Ben calmed down. We ended the conversation with me promising to visit for dinner on Saturday with my little companion. Back at my office, I updated my resume, realizing that Emma and Ryan's scandal had painted me as damaged goods in the area. I had to widen my job search. Eventually, I returned to my old agency in Mobile, where the scandal hadn't reached. They welcomed me warmly, appreciating my big city experience. I sold my house in Birmingham, but the market was tough. I ended up with less than I'd hoped, sharing the proceeds with Emma. Emma didn't disappear from our lives. She began calling Lily weekly and soon switched to Skype for face-to-face conversations. In-person meetings were out of the question as Emma had relocated to Santa Ana, California. Her job search had become challenging due to the negative fallout from our video, but she eventually secured a position teaching journalism at Santa Ana College. When I reconnected with my old agency, I needed to find a place to live. They introduced me to Samantha Brooks, who turned out to be Amy Collins. She showed me several houses and we caught up on everything. Amy had moved to Mobile after Ryan left and started a career in real estate. I mentioned needing a preschool for Lily, and Amy eagerly offered to help with that and other children's activities. Our conversation was pleasant, and I invited her to dinner to discuss the housing options. She recommended a modestly priced home, explaining it was a place she would like to live. Her honesty won me over. Amy and I ended up getting married and moved into the house she had recommended. I was initially worried about how Lily and Amy would get along, but my fears were unfounded. Amy, who had longed for a family, bonded with Lily immediately. Lily started calling her Amy Mom, which soon shortened to just Mom. That summer, we flew to Los Angeles so Lily could visit Emma. Amy and I planned to sightsee in LA while Lily spent a week with her mother. Although I was hesitant to bring it up with Amy due to her feelings about Emma, she was supportive and thought it was a great idea. She seemed confident in our marriage and mature about the situation. At John Wayne Airport, Emma greeted us. Despite our regular Skype calls, I almost didn't recognize her with her short haircut and business casual attire. Lily, initially shy, clung to Amy's side, hiding her face. Amy gently encouraged her to approach Emma. Eventually, Lily walked over and, after a moment's hesitation, ran into Emma's arms. Emma's tears of happiness confused and worried Lily initially, but Emma reassured her. "I'm just so happy to see you, sweetheart," she said as they hugged tightly. Emma looked at Amy and me and whispered, "Thank you." As we headed to the baggage claim area, Lily paused to look at a store window. Emma turned to us. "I know we don't have much time, but I want to apologize. I've been reflecting and in therapy, and I realize how much I hurt everyone in my pursuit of fame. Especially you too. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you don't hate me." Amy and I exchanged glances before embracing Emma. It was a gesture of letting go of old wounds. After our vacation, I called Birmingham one evening. Grace answered, and we chatted before I asked for Ben. When he came on the line, I pitched an idea. "You took a chance on me once. Will you do it again?" Ben sounded puzzled. "What are you talking about, Jake? Quit your job, move here, and let's start an advertising agency together. We'll call it Turner and Foster. What do you say?" I proposed, holding my breath. Ben replied with enthusiasm. "Only if we call it Foster and Turner." We laughed, and I felt a surge of hope. Ben wasn't happy at his old job and was eager for a change, so my timing was perfect. We moved Ben and Grace to Mobile, with Amy helping them find a beautiful home nearby, even refusing a commission to make it easier for them. Soon after launching our agency, we pitched to a potential client who was intrigued by our approach. "I want something that stands out. Can you guys do a viral campaign?" Ben and I exchanged confident glances. "Yes," I said, feeling a spark of excitement. "We can handle it."